There are enough resources for everything to feed, water, clothe, and provide work for everyone. The issue is fair distribution and the objectives of the economic system. If the economic system is built on profit extraction, then its goal, which is imposed upon the entire society, is the pursuit of profit.
Welcome, everyone. This is one of our new interview that we're going to do here at DD Geopolitics. I want to welcome you all to the program. I'm Christopher Halali. I'm here with Alexander Mikhailovich Babakov, who is a member of the State Duma and also one of the leaders in a Just Russia, which is a socialist party here in the Russian Federation. I want to welcome you today. Thank you very much for coming to this interview. First question for our viewers who are very interested. I think that you have been very active with what has gone on since 2014 in terms of the junta, fascist junta in Ukraine, and also now in the special military operation. Give us your assessment of the goals set out by the special military operation, how Russia is achieving them, and what ultimately you hope for a just settlement and a victory at the end of the special military operation.
Well, the goals which the president has set, they have been known for a very long time. These are, first and foremost, denazification, demilitarization of Ukraine. Since the sources of conflict, I will never tire of saying this, repeating the president's words, is the denial of Russia's right to sovereignty, to its position in the world, to solving its own problems. Well, the reason, that is, we need to talk about the reasons and then say that the goals as a consequence of these reasons are denazification. Because even today we can clearly see that after nearly 4 years of the special military operation, the West, represented by NATO, makes no secret of its objectives to dismantle and destroy Russia. But if such goals exist and this organization has moved closer to our borders, then we simply must respond in some way. They're not coming with good intentions to plant flowers in our garden. So this reaction is normal, especially for a sovereign state. Why Ukraine? Because they chose it as a springboard for the final, the constant and undeniable approach of military armaments right up to the very threshold of armaments. And in that particular region, they successfully managed to cultivate a political leadership that would then, well, in reality, it's a puppet-like entity, and it performs, and through whose hands one can attempt to achieve the very goals that the West has set for itself. And this is the great tragedy of the Ukrainian people, because they do not fully comprehend that they are merely an expendable resource for the accomplishment of specific tasks the West has set for itself, while itself fearing a direct conflict with Russia. But today we are witnessing, as it were, the executor's effect. What this means is that Ukraine is simply unable to accomplish the objectives that the West has delegated to it. Well, and the West itself, realizing that it's losing ground in this particular area, has resorted to a policy of escalating tensions already within their own countries to justify their aggression. But we, nonetheless, remain confident and hold firm hope in the might of Russian weaponry, the indomitable spirit of the Russian warrior, and in the triumph of common sense, which we believe can ultimately prevail throughout the world.
Now, you might not know, but I'm the only US elected political leader who has ever spoken out in support of South Ossetia, Abkhazia, of course, DNR, LNR, Crimea, but also Transnistria. Now, I know you were born in Moldova, and I want to ask you, how do you see the fate of Transnistria and what's going on there? How can Russia continue to defend their rights and hopefully, possibly unite them with the Russian Federation if they agree in a referendum?
What is your position?
High Bailiff, Orange County, Vermont.
What is it?
High Bailiff.
What is it?
It's like a senior judicial office.
Well, Russia can and must act as the protector of Transnistria's interests. So, of course, Russia has to protect Transnistria. This is a truly complex political process, but it is a very difficult process. But that's not quite it. After all, complexity does not necessarily imply abandonment. And now the problem of this complexity isn't in the position itself, nor does it originate from within Transnistria, but rather from the undeniable fact that Transnistria is currently surrounded by states that are, well, hostile to Russia.
Yeah, it's landlocked.
Yes, but we work closely with them, and they know, they don't just know, they are, so to speak, in constant contact and under our oversight with Russia. Therefore, they are confident that no matter what may occur, we will always stand right by your side. However, we must certainly give due credit to the people residing in Transnistria, for they are truly individuals of an exceptionally strong spirit. Despite all the immense difficulties and complexities they encounter, they steadfastly continue to uphold their aspiration for full sovereignty. And the most important thing is that they, at the same time, don't threaten anyone, and they don't call for any violence against other people. And this, in fact, directly contrasts with everything that they constantly hear from the mouths of Moldova's politicians, of neighboring Ukraine and also of the West. And to conclude, I want to say that this would be even stranger from an international point of view, because many decisions, truly fateful decisions for Transnistria, were made by referendum. This is the highest form of popular sovereignty. And not like in Europe, by political parties, by party leaders who received only 10 to 15% of the votes in elections.
Now, you have been very active in terms of issues related to economy and other social cultural issues as well within the Russian Federation. Recently, you had a very interesting post about demographics. Now, I read it, very interesting, very good position, I believe. I want you to describe the issue that Russia is facing about demographics. It's not only Russia, many of the developed countries face the issue of demographics. I argue it's a national security issue, because if population goes down, who knows what other great powers could do. What's your perspective on demographics in Russia and how to combat demographic decline?
Of national security, but it is, in fact, a fundamental question of the very survival of any nation.
I'm going to say a few things that, in my opinion, are relevant, not only for Russia, but also more broadly to all those countries that are concerned about this problem. The answer actually lies in a slightly different dimension than it might initially appear. Today, humanity has truly reached a level where it is fully capable of resolving practically all of its problems independently. This stands in stark contrast to the forecasts presented by the club, and not only them, but also many Western experts concerning the limitations of resources. This argument does not hold water. There are enough resources for everything to feed, water, clothe, and provide work for everyone. The issue is fair distribution and the objectives of the economic system. If the economic system is built on profit extraction, then its goal, which is imposed upon the entire society, is the pursuit of profit. This means that the social sphere will always be secondary to that goal. Today, we have seen a real turning point in this matter. Our president states that many issues, particularly those within the social sphere, should actually be the primary objective. At least that's how I understand it. But if the objective is the social sphere, then many projects within the economy shouldn't be considered solely from a profitability standpoint. If we're building a road, then there are two options. When we consider the objective, which is profit, then we must establish the financial viability of this road, linking it directly to the recoupment of invested resources. But if we perceive that this road is both an economic and a social project, one that significantly enhances the quality of life for people across the entire region served by this road, well, that's a completely different topic. And today, the nations that will truly come out on top are those that will make it their primary goal to significantly improve the quality of life for their citizens. Because then the state will stand to gain from absolutely everything, even if it never fully recoups the initial costs of the road. Regardless, from the standpoint of a local project, it will gain income through other means. This involves engaging people in economic life, improving their quality of life, increasing life expectancy, providing comfortable housing, and boosting the birth rate, because people will feel comfortable living in various cities, not just in mega cities, but also in villages, towns, and along the roads. Why do people always want to move to these mega cities? They offer work, good salaries, better social conditions, and cultural opportunity. And the state's task is to create a comfortable living environment and equalize living conditions across different regions. But if the goal is purely profitable, you won't do that. That's why the state is doing this in Russia. This is especially evident in the example of China. This is not a rejection of the market, but rather the market's involvement in achieving the goals of qualitatively improving citizens' lives. And I believe that this system today, first, has already, as shown by China's example, effectively triumphed over another system, and it will now develop to its maximum potential and pave its own way forward.
Very good. My last question for you. You are involved with AI. You are involved with many of these issues at the state level. I'm wondering what your perspective is for the future, how AI will shape the future of Russia, the future of the world, and how it will be integrated into society. What's sort of your vision, and what's the government speaking about these issues now?
Well, that's the one,
That particular area of life, which today it has practically encompassed everything that is connected to human beings. But we must be extremely responsible in its application and in the thorough study of this important matter, because not everyone truly understands what it actually is. And when we speak about the idea that progress should not be halted, we absolutely must comprehend that any given process, particularly one of such a significant scale, invariably possesses both its beneficial and its detrimental aspects. However, I personally think that in addressing this specific matter, it remains fundamentally important to acknowledge the existence of two entirely polar approaches. They're not quite the same. Publicly, they are distinctly different. The first is propaganda, creating an image of blissful complacency, suggesting a machine will emerge that will do absolutely everything for people. And what will a person do? Well, it's completely unclear what they'll do in that situation. This is an important question. And the second position is that the human element must be the priority. So these are the crucial distinctions. But this, I would call it, is merely an external facade. I believe even those who are in the leading positions perfectly understand that at its very core, it's still about human interest. It's simply that in one instance, the first behind this particular mask lies the desire to concentrate all power and might in the hands of a select group of individuals. In the second case, we are taking the second path. We propose to still put the human first and the machine as an assistant. We must always remember one thing, that man, as a being created by the Lord God, is, one might say, a phenomenon, but his potential has not yet been fully explored. It's still too early, far too early to write him off, even against a machine. It's impossible to compare, but in the end, man created this, not the other way around. But there are many dangers here. I won't be talking about them right now. This is quite an interesting topic. We might discuss it separately, perhaps at a later time, but I'll just briefly mention a few key points. It will become quite clear when they tell you that artificial intelligence will provide all the information for you. And this is happening in the learning process. We're already seeing real problems that are emerging as elements of degradation within education and development, in the intellectual development of a person. I think that Western audiences will find this quite comprehensible, because if one can speak in general terms, I am not a profound specialist, but my superficial assessment suggests that the degradation of the general education system in the West, in Europe, for example, this was also accompanied by a significant concentration of educational opportunities within elite institutions, thereby solidifying it for many years to come. This chasm between the majority of the population and the elite, the uncontrolled implementation everywhere of artificial intelligence under the slogan that we are making life easier for people. This could also lead to the strengthening and an even deeper entrenchment of the gap between the majority of the population and that elite, which perhaps isn't even visible at first glance. And the second point is this, well, there are quite a few of them. I would also like to point out that if this particular area of focus impacts virtually everyone, the whole world, then it's only logical that access to it should also be made available, stemming from this very understanding. And even here, we're already seeing an increasing differentiation in the various approaches. Some have electricity, but the vast majority of others simply do not. And consequently, here emerges an entire global direction of differentiation. Therefore, this is always a question of sovereignty, but also of the future of the entire world, so that the world would rather foster the equalization of living standards and opportunities instead of cementing division. Many philosophical questions arise at once.
Sure.
We need to work.
Amazing. I want to thank you again for this wonderful interview. Look forward to seeing you again soon, and wishing you, of course, a Happy New Year and a Merry Christmas.
Likewise, my very best wishes to you and all your loved ones, to your audience, to your family members there, and so on.
Thank you so much.
Спасибо. Спасибо.